This summer, I was asked to give a talk at the NextGen Summit. It's an incredible conference with about 700 or 800 of the best and the brightest young people who are creators, makers, entrepreneurs. And I got to talk about some of my cool research about the power of the creation event. But I did something a little funny. So, grab time on the calendar. I may have blown up my calendar, and if it runs out of time, just did it blow up my calendar already? But just come hang out with me. I'd love to be able to talk with you. Now, asking people to schedule time with me maybe wasn't the smartest thing because 150 people took me up on it. So for about 3 weeks, all I did is talk to these awesome, ambitious people. And on today's episode, I'm gonna tell you what I learned. And it surprised me a lot. It's easier than ever today to do things, to make things, to get out there and start your own entrepreneurial journey. The problem is, most of us don't always know what we should be creating. In over 150 interviews I did with these amazing young people that I met at the NextGen Summit, I kept asking them the following question: where are you trying to go in life? Now that question stumped most people. They most of the times would resort to what they're doing today, not this idea of what the long-term aim is. And that's one of the biggest challenges that most of us face, trying to figure out where we're going, where we're headed. Now, researchers call this concept our purpose. What is the thing that we're trying to do to make our dent on the universe? And as I learned, very few of us have that figured out. Now, it's not something that necessarily will limit you from success, but it is one of those things that at the end of the day will make things tougher, making choices of what you should be doing. Now, I don't have all the answers for sure, but I will say a couple things I learned about these conversations with some of these really bright people. And that is that most people want to know how to find their purpose. The biggest thing that I would share is you don't find your purpose, you fall in love with it. You typically fall in love with it by working on something that helps you create depth, helps you build relationships with other people, and helps you figure out what you're trying to do long term. Number two, I also realized that many times people are nervous about the fact of picking this thing. What is this purpose that they're going after? They're worried because they think that this is the one thing they have to do in their life. Now, don't you worry. I look back on my life and I've had at least 6 purposes. Now, what does that mean? Well, it just means that at the time you're doing something, it is the place where you're headed in life, but that will change as things open up and things happen along the way. And the last thing that I learned from these conversations is that you really do have to put in time, effort, and work to figure out what this all means. It's not something that you can just sort of fill out a couple forms or take a couple online assessments and that says, here's your purpose. Instead, it's one of those things that happens when you define a path and you start to run after it for a while and you learn and you iterate and you keep going along the way. And that's the power of this. So I had an amazing experience at NextGen. I was super excited to be able to come to New York, share this story of the creation event with hundreds and hundreds of people. And I also found out that not everyone has it figured out. In fact, all of us are trying to search and find our way. So if you feel like you're not quite grokked in, you don't quite exactly have this thing that you call your purpose or your passion, don't worry, you're not alone. But you're never going to find it unless you start to put in the work and start to figure out where this all heads. And that's the power of finding your purpose. Thanks again, NextGen, for having me. I'll be there next year. Come check it out. An amazing community of young, ambitious creators, makers, entrepreneurs. That's NextGen. Thanks.